My guest today is Munira Abdullahi. Representative Munira is the representative for Ohio House District 9. She's the first Muslim woman to serve in the Ohio Statehouse and is one of the first two Somali American representatives in Ohio. In this episode, we talk about her upbringing and why she chose to go into politics. We also talk about politics at the state level, what she sees as big issues facing the state, and her thoughts on Columbus's growth and how to grow responsibly. All that and more on this chronicle of the Columbus Chronicle. First off, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on the pod.
Okay.
For people who don't know you, give the spark notes.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Munira Abdullahi. My family's originally from Somalia, but I was born in a refugee camp in Kenya. So they fled the civil war. My parents really young. They were 16, 17. Well, my mom was 16. My dad was 18. And they fled to Kenya. And I was born actually in one of the refugee camps in Kenya. And we lived there for about 2 years. My mom was literally telling us stories last night to one of my friends, I guess to embarrass me. But she was just talking about how, yeah, like moms do. But she was just talking about how I used to fight for food. I used to just leave the house really early, leave the wherever we stay, and then go try to find food before my parents woke up. And I was like, wow, that probably I don't remember those days, but I'm sure it was formative. And then we moved to Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. It was actually the first place we lived in America. And one of my sisters was born there, and then we moved to Columbus, Ohio, when I was around 4 or 5 years old, and been here ever since. All of my other siblings were born here. I'm the oldest of 9, 8 girls. 1 boy, the youngest is a boy. So I'm the eldest daughter, eldest son, the tropes. And then really just, grew up in Columbus, Ohio, went to Columbus Alternative High School for high school, and then went to OSU for college. And through that, I did a lot of, in between that time, I did a lot of community work. My parents were really passionate about community work. Even though they were struggling with, being young immigrant parents, trying to survive and trying to figure out this new place and trying to make sure that we were good, but still they still made time to be in community and do a lot of services. My dad helped run a mosque in the area, but it was a place of service, not just a place of worship. And he made me volunteer for everything. And through that, I think I really fell in love with community service and just also really saw what people dealt with and how many inequities existed, how many issues people had, and how little support there was. And that kind of fueled my passion for public service. And then the rest is history, I guess. I went to college for international relations diplomacy because I was thinking big picture, I want to help the world. And then I realized there's so much going on right here in my community, and I needed to be able to do more and try to solve problems at the core in where I live, right here before going out anywhere else. And so in 2020, I kind of shifted my focus to more community advocacy, not just in the nonprofit space, but really in policy. And as I guess eldest daughters do, I said, what the heck, I want to solve it myself because I'm not seeing the leadership that I want to see. So there was a seat that opened up, and I think a few people mentioned it to me, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. It didn't take me 7 times. I know they say that it takes women 7 times to be asked to run for office. Probably took me 2 or 3, and I was like, you know what?
I'm doing it.
I'll do it because I'm not seeing what I like here. And I ran for office, and I became one of the youngest representatives. Well, I was the youngest at that time, and then also the first Muslim woman elected for Somali woman elected. And it's been chaos ever since.
Yeah, I think chaos is probably definitely the right word to describe from that period of time, 2023, right, to now. I want to talk about everything on the latter end, but I really want to start with talking about kind of your parents, kind of the impact they had on you growing up. And I'm the oldest sibling too, not of 9, 2 others, but I understand just that mentality. Yes, a lot of responsibility, but only, again, for me, only 2 other siblings, not 8. Yeah. Talk to me about the family growing up and how that impacted you now.
Definitely very impactful. I mean, both my parents are, I guess, ambitious in a different sense. My dad was very community oriented, very much just do whatever I can to help people. I mean, he was always being called. His phone was always ringing, and someone needed help with an eviction or drug abuse or even family issues. So he was really deeply ingrained in the community. He was a core figure. And my mom, she also supported a lot of community members, but she was also very passionate about education. She made sure that we were on top of it, no matter what no matter what was going on in our lives. We better have good grades. We better be studying. So they both really shaped me in a way that I think truly makes me who I am today. And outside of my parents, my siblings, because I'm the oldest. I have to always be a good example, right? And teach them, what's right and what's wrong in the world. I felt like that was a huge responsibility that was put on me at a very young age. And I took that very seriously. And I think I ended up expanding it from not just my siblings, but other people around me. I became a youth director at our mosque, and I was like mentoring a lot of people my age too. I'd be like, you can't do this. They'd be like, yes, ma'am.
It's the
um,
oldest sibling thing
it is
again.
almost
Yeah.
like the energy becomes very, yeah. People were scared of me a little bit, but definitely use my power for good. And it really taught me a lot about leadership, like everything I experienced growing up, from the volunteering to just being the oldest in the family. It taught me a lot about patience, a lot about, doing the right thing, and truly like leading and not waiting for others to solve problems. And I think that is exactly what led me here, trying to solve problems at a scale that I should not be trying to solve them, but here we are. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. I'm really interested, like, growing up, you mentioned, like, you saw those inequities that ultimately led to the decision for you to go and hold public office. Kinda talk to me about that, like, in your early years. Like, when you guys moved to Columbus, where were you guys growing up about?
We first moved to, I think it was the West Side, um, and we were there for a few years. I don't remember how long because I was really young, and then we moved to Cassidy. So I grew like my early childhood memories were in like Agri Green, like Cassidy. I went to Cassidy Elementary School. Yeah, Agri Green was that back then was like hectic. I remember, just like my parents would like not allow us to go outside too much on our own. One time I remember we had to leave the house from the back because the police came in and they said you guys have to get out from the back because there was a shooting happening, like literally like our next door neighbors. It was insane, and we came back, like, they were fighting, and I guess they ended up, like, bringing out their guns, and there was, like when we came back, there was, like, literally bullet hole in the, apartment wall, and, I mean, that's, like, the environment that I grew up in. I didn't realize at the time, I was like, this that was really intense. Like, always still in survival mode, right, from the refugee camp to that neighborhood, and then, eventually, like, my dad, he worked, like, 3 jobs, and, he was able to afford, a house because we grew out of the apartment. So we moved to Forest Park, which is like a really nice, fun neighborhood. And so lived the rest of my late middle school, high school, college life, like over there.
So your dad's working 3 jobs, and so you guys can all get a home, go through the education, so, just that family dynamic. What was, when you were growing up at that time, like, were there ever any early signs that, like, that you felt that you were like, "I need to do more, I want to do more?"
I mean, I think that was a constant feeling for me. Just seeing any injustices, I would always want to be the one to fix it. I used to be the one to beat up the bullies in like elementary school. I'd be like, I will teach you a lesson. But I quickly learned that was not the right thing to do. But I remember just if I was watching the news with my parents, I'd be like, this is so like the world, things are happening in the world is so messed up, and I wish I could do something about it. Or just common injustices that I see, like I desperately want to do something about it. Could be the neurodivergence of justice, hypersensitivity to justice, and that kind of led me to wanting to study like peace studies, basically international relations and diplomacy, strategies of war and peace. And I was like very passionate about figuring out like why do humans, cause such violence and how do we stop it? And I think, from that there was that moment, and then and I think I got there by just learning more about the world and read like either the news, reading books about the previous. Like I was very passionate about history and just reading stories about previous conflicts and things like that. And I was like, this is insane. I want to learn more about it. And then in my real life, like in 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement protest started, I was like, I gotta, I have to be outside. I've got to be outside in solidarity. Like watching that video of George Floyd was very like visceral moment of wow, we need to do something about this. And then going outside and seeing the treatment that protesters were getting for, asking for humanity and asking for justice, that made me want to even further figure out what can I do to try to solve this issue? What can I do to build that trust? And what can I do? Like, where is the root of this problem? Like, where did it come from? How did we get here, and how do we get out of it? And that's when I started, learning more about local policy, local politics, and advocacy, and trying to find those leaders who had an impact on that, and asking them, like, come to our communities. I've never seen you. I was like, wait a minute, I've never seen you guys in my community before. I've never seen you guys in these areas of town before. Um, let's get you out here. Like, talk to your community members. And then through there, it kind of just went from there. Just kind of I didn't see the leadership that I wanted to see, and I'm like, I need to do something about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to school. Right after school, what does that look like for you?
Right after school, it looked like trying to find jobs.
Relatable. Yeah,
As
fair.
one does after you graduate college, and the job market was rough. Oh my God. I remember I was trying to go.
What year was this roughly?
This is like, I graduated, I was supposed to graduate in 2020, but I graduated a semester early. So right before COVID, I had the last graduation. Yeah. And right after that, I was like, okay, I need to find jobs. That was very hard because COVID hit. I ended up finding a fellowship, which is really great. Ignite, which is a young women's advocacy organization, just teaching young women how to advocate and also to run for office some point. So that was definitely very pivotal for me as well. Teaching me that you don't have to necessarily be like super old or have been doing this for a long time to run for office, but really what you need is like that passion, empathy for your community, and also the knowledge of your community. The rest of it can be learned. Right? It's really hard to learn those things, those core principles of loving your community, being in community, and having that passion and compassion for them. Then policy and all that, like that, you can learn that on the go. But those core ideals for a public official is, that's what was most critical. So that really helped me kind of, I think, break down the preconceptions that I had about public office or elected officials. But other than that, I was just working random jobs and still doing like my nonprofit work, but that's not, it's not really full time.
Yeah. So you get to the point where you're like, I'm going to make the decision to run for office.
It was law school or run for office.
You picked up. Well, what happens then? You make the decision. What does that look like then? That period after you make that decision to
To
you
run for
getting
office, right?
yeah, to
Yeah.
you getting into office. What does that period look like?
It was crazy. I mean, I obviously I asked a lot of different mentors, like what they thought, and people were really supportive. I asked my parents, like my dad's really supportive, my mom was really scared. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I feel like I'm being led towards this path. Like, I'm gonna do it. I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I jumped in without even knowing like anything about this office. Like, I remember someone told me, oh, state rep, that's a a good position for you to run for. I was like, what even does a state rep do? Like, genuinely. Like, I've heard of Congress. Like, most people don't know what a state rep does. So I was like literally Googling like what is a state rep. And then from there, just like literally just researching like how do you run for office? What are like the rules and guidelines? And I didn't have a campaign manager, so I was just figuring out everything like on the go and just asking different people for advice. And then at some point, someone suggested a training for me. It was New American Leaders, and it was really pivotal. At that point I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. This is really big. There's a lot going on here. But then I took that training, and it was so motivating, it was so inspiring, and it gave me a lot of the basic tools that I needed to actually like go for it and run. And then I went and I ran. I found a manager halfway through, which is really cool. But
So the first half you were doing it on your own.
I was just doing it on my own, man. It was crazy. But I think that really built character. And I really wanted a campaign that didn't look like everyone else's. I was like, I'm of the generation and also of the demographic that thinks politics is like very corrupt, and politicians do things like a certain way that is not good for the people, that the status quo is not good, like it shouldn't be this way. So I was like, I'm not doing anything by the book. I'm not doing not by the legal book, but like by the
Actually, I mean, the colors for your campaign were like different than like the red and blue, you know?
exactly. Oh my God, I got fought on for that. Like when I finally found my campaign manager, or actually one of my first mentors, he was like, "Ugh, I don't like this. It should be this blue." I was like, no, actually, what's in the middle between red and blue mixed together? It was purple. Because it's a people's campaign for everyone. It's not red or blue. I really wanted to be a representative that represented everyone, regardless of their ideology, regardless of their affiliation, because everyone deserves to have a elected official that cares about them and that represents them. And so I didn't want to come in with those preconceived, like, I pick my team, even though I do have to technically pick my team. But like, I didn't want people to kind of perceive that like I was on one side and not the other, or at least not on their side. And so campaign colors were very different. The way I ran my campaign was like very, very different. It was very grassroots. We did a lot of events. We went to a lot of community events, and had a lot of young people volunteering for me, like really young people. I mean, I had like little kids sometimes volunteering with their parents. It was so cool. But it was a very grassroots, like community-led, community-owned campaign. It didn't take any PAC dollars. Like my campaign manager, what I got him, he's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, how are you gonna get money?" I was like, "Don't worry about it, dog. I got this." Like, community, I'm working for the community. It's like I'm working for the people. The people should fund this campaign, and they did. And so my trust in the people were it paid off, but it was a very unique campaign. It was very I wanted to be very different. I wanted to be very me and centered on my values and the community's values, and to be very transparent and open. And it was. And I think it showed in the work that we did, and then it also showed in the results. Like, I won the election by over 68%. It was great.
Yeah. And then, like, what was finding out that night that you were the winner? What was that kind of sense when you, like, was it like a, oh, now here's the thing, we got to do the thing? Like, what was that like, that moment when?
It was very nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh. Like, people, "Oh, you excited?" No. Now it's legit, like, it's serious. Like, I have gotta lock in. This is a very serious job. I'm gonna be responsible for, like, a lot of people, and I'm gonna have to really represent, and it's gonna be very hard. Like, I didn't have any sense of, like, it was exciting to make history. That was very exciting, but I knew the weight of the responsibility, and it was very heavy. And so it was kind of like bittersweet that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that moment, then I feel like just going along the path here, from that moment to now, a lot has happened. What have those couple years been like for you, that time frame?
It The couple years, since I won, it's been very intense. I mean, walking into the State House, being, like, the first, hijabi they've probably ever seen, you know what I mean? It was, just it was very overwhelming. I remember the first day we went to the house, like, they had a, resolution on the iPad that we vote on to ban non-Christian prayers, because they were like, "We got some non-Christians in here," because we start the house with a prayer every day. So they're like, "No, no, no, we can't. Now we're gonna have to have other people asking for prayers." It was so crazy, but the speaker, like, shut that down very quickly. And I was like, "Damn, that's what we're working with here?"
Yeah. So have you experienced that, like, that reaction from legislators to when you came into office? What was that like?
It was it's very frustrating because it's not. I mean, this feels weird to say. It's not like an outright racism. Like, that was the only outright thing that I saw. Well, there's other things, like, here and there, but for the most part, it's more so, having to prove that you're a person. Well, they just, like, they don't wanna talk to you. They don't wanna really they dodge meetings. Like, my Republican colleagues, at least my colleagues in my caucus have been very supportive and helpful, and, like, they're very sensitive to the fact that I, feel, like I'm being, treated differently by other people. But so they've been really supportive and friendly. But the Republican cau it's just very hard to break those barriers of, "Dude, I'm just a person just like you." It takes a minute, and, like, I have to do extra steps to get there versus everyone else, like, "Hey, how are you?" They connect very quickly, but I've got to, like, push to get a meeting or bug them. And it doesn't even work for everyone, right? There's been very few that I have been able to actually connect with and talk to, and get past that, like, hurdle of them just literally talking to me. And so it's been very awkward, very hard. But I don't give up easily. So still working on it.
Yeah. One of the things I like that you said was, like, you're like, "I'm not taking PAC money." I have this sense, and I feel like I know a lot of people that feel this way when I see some of the things that go through, the Ohio legislator. I'm like, I feel like this is something that was, like, written by a company, and then like, do you ever
Likely
feel that?
was, yeah.
Yeah, do you feel that pressure from, like, whether it be, like, external companies or lobbyists or whatever? Do you see a lot of that happening?
Definitely for different things. I mean, a lot of our politics is run. I mean, America in general, we're run by special interest groups and money in politics. I feel like the core of our issues is money in politics. Like, we can get rid of that, we could solve a lot of problems. But there's definitely a lot of things that come into the state house that were written by like think tanks or big lobbyists, and they're pushing it, and they're making those asks and those calls. I feel like I've built this culture of they know that I don't really care that much. So you know what I mean? Like it depends. Like if you're an advocacy group that I actually like relate to and I like your work and that we've met, I'll take those meetings and you know I'll make sure that they know that you know I do take their issues seriously. But if you're not working on behalf of the people, I'm not taking you seriously. So I don't really see that much pressure in that sense. But I know other colleagues have. I know that a lot of the right now we're in a super minority in the state house, and so the Republican Party makes the decisions, and a lot of their bills are written by special interest groups. A lot of private equity, a lot of uh, private schools, different things. Those bills are pushed by those entities, and like you realize it because when you start talking to members, and you start connecting on the issue, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right, but then they don't vote that way. So you're like, oh, okay, there's someone else behind this. And that was very frustrating for me because I knew it was happening. I just didn't expect to experience it where I'm like, oh, you get it. But then you go to the House floor and you still vote the way you were gonna vote before. That was very frustrating 'cause I thought we could like have these conversations and I'd be able to reason with people and they would like change their mind and then vote the right way. That's not the case because private interests and special interest groups are running the show behind the scenes.
And you think I think this. I'm guessing you think this. The answer to a lot of our problems then is just getting that money out of politics.
Yeah, if we cut money out of politics, that'd be awesome. And it doesn't look like we're going that way yet. In fact, in the recent budget, we just gutted our campaign finance reform committee. So we're going the wrong direction. If y'all didn't know, we do have the most corrupt state house in America, according to the FBI. So congrats on being number one on something.
It's not the number one
Not
we
the number
want,
one we
but
want.
oh man.
No.
Um, there's a lot of things that I've been following along that you're like, whether it's going to the ICE detention facilities or being very vocal about at some of the protests we've had. Like, what are some of the issues right now that you're really involved in, that you're really focused on here in Ohio?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, originally, one of my biggest issues and passions was like funding infrastructure in our communities. Like, you know, a lot of our communities that we live in don't have sidewalks, we don't have good streets, safety, and insulin affordability. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so like just prescription drug affordability is a big thing. But now the landscape has become really toxic in a lot of different ways. So the ICE detention centers, like all of the immigration issue, just how people have been being treated, folks who are even going through the legal process are being snatched up from the streets and never to be seen again, never to be heard from again. Due process has become a myth almost at this point. It's so terrifying what's happening in this country to people. And so I've been trying to get involved with some of that, but a lot of it is federal. In Ohio, our state legislature has decided to, you know, try to fight municipalities on like the sanctuary city thing. We're trying to ban that in the state house. We're trying to force cities like Columbus to comply with federal law, like federal ICE enforcement, because right now we have our mayor and our city council have decided like we don't cooperate with them, like we don't help them. That's, you know, they have their mandate, but we're not going to be involved in that. So technically we're like a sanctuary city, but the state of Ohio, the state legislature is trying to get rid of that. And so, I mean, whatever we can do to stop that, we're trying. We also have some other really odd immigrant like bills that are anti-immigrant bills that are coming out in the state house, like House Bill 1, which would ban certain immigrants from owning land in the state of Ohio. Yeah, and that list is a rotating list right now. It's the China's on there, Iran, I think Venezuela, Russia, North Korea. But the Secretary of State can add countries to that anytime. It's an adversary list that he has, and they won't be able to own land within, I think, 10 miles of critical infrastructure, and that could be like a telephone line. That could be, and so basically like these immigrants cannot have homes and own businesses in the state of Ohio is insane. And so we're fighting that bill, and that fight has actually been going pretty well. Like it's been stalled for now. And that was a culmination of us working with like immigrant advocacy groups, the Asian American Association, they really came out in numbers, testified, protested, had press conferences, put pressure, like called and emailed. Like that stuff really works. When you do it right and you do it consistently, it does work, like putting pressure on your legislators. And that bill has been paused for now. And so that's kind of a win for the people. But there's a lot of crazy things happening and it's like hard to keep up. But I would advise people to just stay tapped in on these issues and on these local fights and follow groups like Ohio 5051. Ohio is Against Extremism has a really good list of bills that they track, and they make it very simple on how do you like email your representative, even like a script, like who's the reps to email. And their page is literally just called ohiobills.wtf. Perfect website. And you can just track bills and do like action on there.
I want to pivot a little bit. I want to talk about your district, District 9. Like, talk to me about the community in that district and what you see within that district and where that district encompasses for those who don't know.
Yeah, District 9, I mean, well, they gerrymandered it again. So my first District 9 was a little different than this District 9. I know it's so sad. I was talking to a group of old constituents, and I was like, oh, you're not my constituents anymore, guys. But it has Northland in there, the community of Northland. It's got a little bit of Westerville. So basically, if you go from the Worthington Industries area, like where all the businesses and Worthington factories are, all the way down on 161, all the way down to Hamilton. And it has a bit of Morris Road on the Walmart side. It's very hard to explain. It's like it's drawn like this, and it has Sharon Woods and Blendon Woods in it, which is really cool. But it's a really fun district, very diverse. We've got Westbrook City Schools in there, a little bit of Worthington, a little tiny bit of New Albany, tiny bit of Gahanna, but most of it is Columbus, Northland, Minerva Park, which is a really fun community. It's a very diverse district. I feel like it's a district that, I mean, I heard stories like 161 used to be up back in the day, and then it just went down. Like when I moved in, it was dead, and now it's really on the come up. Like a lot of new businesses are opening up. There's a lot of immigrants there. There's a lot of different things happening in Northland. They're starting to develop kind of like their personality again, I guess. But we have the Northland Community Council, which is really cool. I don't think anyone else has that. And it just brings together all the neighborhood civic associations, and they come together, and plus the village of Minerva Park, and they talk about things. Like they have coordinated conversations, and it's really cool. So it's like it feels like a real community, which is awesome. They do really good at that. And we have the YMCA, which is great. The Carl Road Library that I walk to.
Carl Road Library.
Library.
Yeah.
You know the Carl Road Library?
Yeah, of course I used to work for Columbus Metropolitan
Oh, that's
Library
so
back in the day.
cool.
Yeah.
Love that library. I used to walk there all the time in high school. But yeah, it's a beautiful community. We got, beautiful parks and just different things happening. And I'm very passionate about seeing it grow and develop more, because I think it has a lot of potential. And, now we're getting new sidewalks. We're getting roundabouts. Like it's developing, and it's very exciting to see.
Nice. A lot of these questions are kind of pivots because there's just so much I'm curious about. I want to like looking at Ohio in general, because I'll ask you this question about Columbus too, but I really want to, since you're involved in politics throughout the state, like looking ahead, like at Ohio right now, I guess the future and the current state of Ohio, what are like some of your big concerns for the state?
Well, for the future of Ohio, I think just seeing looking at it from legislative sense, I'm watching what some of my colleagues are doing on the other side of the aisle, and that's cutting budgets to very critical resources. So we just recently cut, Medicaid. We've cut public education funding is the worst it's ever been, and we were already unconstitutional. And so I'm very fearful of how those cuts are going to look in communities. Like schools are not going to be able to stay open. Hospitals are not going to be able to stay open, like rural hospitals. And so I felt like we were building, and we were starting to develop areas in Appalachia. We were developing in rural Ohio. We're growing our cities. It was, when I first came into legislature, I would say Ohio's growing, and like we're developing, and we're actually starting to talk about, how do we get people to move to Ohio and stay in Ohio. But then we started, we passed Senate Bill 1, which really destroys the integrity of our universities. Like a lot of students and teachers have been moving out of Ohio universities. And now we're gonna have our public schools are gonna be decimated, our healthcare system. And so I want to be positive, but I'm very fearful of where we're going. And I think the one thing I'm very hopeful about is that I'm seeing like people all across the state start to talk about these things and start to take action, like the citizen-led initiatives. Last 2 years, like we saw people come out and do 2 ballot initiatives. And then we saw them do 3. One of them did lose, but the other 2 had huge successes. And I think the conversation is starting where they're realizing a lot of the politicians that they've chosen are not actually working on behalf of their interests. And I'm really happy to see people actually start talking about that and recognize it, because they were doing all these things with the hope that no one would realize it and that no one would pay attention. And they tried to cut the library funding and they thought no one would care. And so many people called and emailed and harassed representatives until they backtracked and they were like, "Oops, no, we're not gonna touch the libraries. You're good." And that is a example of how, you know, people wake up and they start advocating for themselves. Like there is success to be had, and it's not all hopeless. Like, oh, it's not like your voice doesn't matter. It does. And I think people in Ohio are starting to realize that. Like they're kind of waking up from like this, oh, it's none of my business. Like politics, you know, doesn't concern me type energy that I think we had before. And now we're starting to advocate for ourselves and we're starting to see the truth. And I hope that continues to happen until we start truly holding our elected officials accountable and we get better maps and we get, you know, better elected officials and hopefully reverse this budget mess, because it is a mess, I will say. And I don't think a lot of people are going to get hurt because it's already passed. And so 2026, 2027 budget is not going to look good, but we have another chance to, you know, come back in the next in the next General Assembly and pass a better budget. And yeah, I hope people are starting to realize what's going on and they're speaking up.
Yeah. And you mentioned it a little bit before, but what would your advice be to people who want to get more involved in that sort of thing, who might feel like I don't have a voice anymore, or I feel like I'm like they just feel disenfranchised a little bit. What would your advice be to those folks?
I would say first just get involved in like your local groups, because it can be really overwhelming. But when you have a community of people who care about the same thing and who are able to maybe make it digestible to you in your local area where like what pertains to you, what doesn't, like your Ohio 5051 groups, it- that would be very helpful. And then after that, just slowly following like what's happening in the legislature or in Ohio politics. Like the Ohio Cap Journal is really good. Gongwer, Ohio is really nice. And then that page, ohiobills.wtf, amazing. And then Rachel Coyle is one of the people who started that. Her page is really awesome, like on social media. Um, just yeah, starting to follow these people that can break it down for you. I try to break it down sometimes. You follow me.
Good plug. Nice plug.
Yeah. But really just like start local. Don't overwhelm yourself. And then also start with issues that you really, really care about. Like if it's public education, if it's libraries, if it's infrastructure, if it's healthcare, like just start plugging in to groups and organizations that advocate and fight for those things. You could start there and just start using your voice.
So along that same line with the emphasis on local, you've been in Columbus since you were 5. So you've been able to watch the city grow over the years. When you look at the future of this city, I'm trying to elongate my question so you can enjoy that water. When you look at the future of Columbus, what excites you about it, but what also concerns you about it?
Yeah, I mean, Columbus is growing, one fastest growing city in the Midwest, I think they say, right? And it is really developed. I mean, there's so many cool cafes. That's my favorite part, actually. We've got a new cafe popping up all the time. A lot of new food places. That is also very cool. It's becoming it's becoming a true melting pot. Like it's very diverse. It's very colorful. The city has been investing in a lot of different areas, which is amazing. One of the only things so that's very exciting. I think the growth of the small businesses, of communities, has been really beautiful. The thing that concerns me is I feel like we're not developing our infrastructure fast enough, almost. I think affordable housing is a huge issue, right? Our unhoused population is growing. The cost of rent is increasing like crazy. Um, I am a renter and I'm like, what the heck is happening? I remember because I took a little break from renting. My mom made me move back and she's like, come back, you know, I'll cook for you and clean for you since you don't eat. And then like, and I moved back for a little bit. Now I'm like, I had to move back out. I was like, I need my own house. I need my own home again. And it is expensive. It's more expensive than I remember. And I remember reading into this and it's like the average rent is 1,200, probably higher now because that was last year. And the average hourly pay is like $12 an hour. There's no way someone can afford to live in a home in Columbus with that rate of pay. It's impossible. And then to have like a fruitful life. And so I think there is much to be done with making sure the city is affordable for people. I think people are getting they're not going to be able to afford to live here anymore. Like people are starting to move out of Columbus because of that. When people used to move into Columbus because it was so, affordable and developing. So I think that's something that we truly need to address at a local level, at a state level, and bringing more jobs. Right? We had the Intel bust. That was sad. That was a failure on policy makers' part, and yeah, there's a lot of development that needs to get done for people to be able to live here and thrive here.
I feel like you probably have your thumb on the pulse of the Intel thing. What is I feel like I read a different headline every day. It says delayed till now, and now it's like actually it's probably done for sure. And then it's like, no, now it's actually done. What's the status of it to your knowledge right
I mean,
now?
I can't tell you 100%, but it looks like it's pretty dead.
Yeah. Or-
Yeah, we didn't really do that deal. Not we, not me. What that deal was not done properly, and the due diligence of lawmakers, of policymakers, and all the negotiators at the table, they didn't do it, and I feel like that is an example of um, companies taking advantage of cities and people. Another example is like the paper mill in Chillicothe, Ohio, where they sold it to a new company that came in, and within months ended up saying, "Oh, we can't do this anymore," and they fired 800 people. And that's just horrible. And so the state can do a lot more to protect people from private equity. And Intel is an example of that, and so is that paper mill. And we're gonna have more experiences where we might get played by companies like that, and we have to take it a lot more seriously because people's jobs are on the line, people's lives are on the line, right? So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I worry that it'll happen more because I think in the past few years, just from what I've seen with like as sadly a lifelong Browns fan, like watching that don't even don't even I'm not gonna go down that hole right now. But just watching like the money that we take from the taxpayers to give to people that are billionaires, or 100+ millionaires is just astonishing to me at some points. And I just and to see that there's such an openness to continuously do it while a lot of people I think are struggling right now really frustrates me. And I think that that's only setting up the state in the future to have that happen more.
Yeah, that's another example of private equity and also lobbyists taking advantage of politics. Not taking advantage, they're not really taking, they know what they're doing, but taking advantage of their power to influence policy. Like the Browns owners never came and testified in the Statehouse, right? While hundreds of people came and testified in public schools, yet they got a $2+ billion cut, and the Browns got a 1 point something billion dollar like handout basically. And so that is an example of how like lobbyist money comes in and takes advantage of people in terms of policy. And so yeah, that was very disappointing.
What yeah, what do you do to like relax and get this out of do you ever have that ability to relax or get this out of your head?
I think I still do like my youth development work. I still work with like young people, at the mosque and in the community. And I do I try to do a lot of like mentorship and activities like with young people. That kind of gives me hope and it gives me like purpose. It's also exhausting, but that gives me purpose. There's nothing I do to really relax. I used to like lift and do the gym, and I need to get back into that. But right now, it's like everything just happening way too fast.
Yeah, I think it
There's no breaks.
that yeah, no joke. I think I thought I saw somewhere that you like I saw that you did lifting, but like did you do martial
Oh
arts at
yeah,
one
yeah,
point?
yeah. I
Yeah.
did. I did. I need to go back. I need to go back. I need to punch something that is not a state representative.
I well, I wanna be knowledgeable of your time. I don't wanna take up too much more of your time. One of the questions I always ask, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier. This is something a little bit of a lighter note here. You mentioned the cafes and the places to eat. Favorite places to eat, drink, hang out in Columbus?
Okay, okay. This is a good one. Okay, Yemeni cafes are popping up all over Columbus, and they are so amazing. There is one downtown, Kawa House. I love that place. I was just there last night. And then there's a new one in not in my district, but it's like literally like 1 foot out of my district, which is so sad. It's called Marib, Marib. That is a really good cafe. 2 Yemeni cafes. Speaking of Yemeni, there's a Yemeni restaurant. Very good food. Shout out to the Yemenis. And there's also a really nice Somali restaurant in my district called Sally's. Very good. Where else do I go to? There, Buckeye Donuts. That used to be my like stress food in college. Oh my gosh. Buckeye Donuts on campus. What else? Mike's Pizza used to be the vibe. I feel like I grew out of that. Mike's Late Night Slice. I don't know. I'm a cafe person now. I just drink. I just drink coffee. That's my stress thing. Coffee and a Celsius and a Poppy when I am on the caffeine. The caffeine is too much.
That's
Yeah.
funny. See, I can't do too much caffeine now because it just makes me more stressed at this point.
I have ADHD, so it balance.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Final plug. Anything you want to say? The floor is yours. Where can people find you? Where can people follow what you're doing?
Oh yeah. I am on most of the socials, not all of them. But Instagram, I'm very active. I try to post like active updates when we're in the house, like session. Try to make it funny with like memes and stuff, just so you can follow what's going on. So, because again, like democracy dies in darkness, and a lot of this weird stuff that they do, it happens quickly as possible. Very confusing for a reason, because they don't want people to pay attention and catch on to things. And so transparency and making sure people know what's happening. That is going to affect their lives. That's something I'm very passionate about, and educating them on how they can impact that. And so I do that a lot on my page under Munira at Munira_y.a is my Instagram. I also have a political one, Munira for Ohio. TikTok, the same thing, Munira for Ohio. But I'm very active on this page. I'm more active on the Munira_y.a. But I try to keep people updated on what's going on in the Statehouse. And then when I can, like what's going on nationally and what's going on locally, how they can get involved in different things and plug in to different places. Where you can find me, I don't know, everywhere. Everywhere all at once, I guess. If you want me to come somewhere, just DM me. I will try to come. I like to come to community things when I'm invited, and sometimes when I'm not invited, I just pull up. But yeah, I'm trying to do more constituent engagement, because again, like the Statehouse is like so depressing. And I find my purpose in community, so trying to do more community things. So I do love getting invited to community events, and also trying to create more community events myself.
I would imagine that energizes you after being in the Statehouse all the time.
Statehouse is a depressive place.
Anything else you want to add?
I just stay involved. Don't be discouraged by everything that's happening. I think one of the tactics of, you know, evil governments and fascism is to overwhelm people and to make it feel like you have no say, that you can't do anything. And so find little things that you can do, plug in, join your, go to your local library. They have amazing resources. Join your local advocacy groups. Honestly, make an advocacy group, or make a group for just community to come together and talk, but be in community, and just find tiny little things that you can do, feed the homeless, go to a farmer's market and help out, or wherever you can go and plug in, do that. Don't get overwhelmed, and don't feel like you can't do anything, because everyone matters. Everyone's voice matters. Everyone's action matters in community. And when we stop engaging community is when we are like finished. So
I think we'll end it there.
All right.
Munira, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.